Good morning, brothers and sisters.
Good morning.
Oh, we can do better than that. Good morning, brothers and sisters. All right. Thank you for joining us today. That's awesome. We're out here on the steps of Fresno City Hall. My name is Dave Rivas. I'm the senior field rep for the Northern California Carpenters Regional Council. Today, I'm here on behalf of talking to 38,000 members of the Carpenters Union and the 2,000 plus that live right here just in the Fresno area. Today, we're talking about a very serious subject. We're here today to make a stand against construction industry tax fraud. Ooh. I hear you guys. It's a problem that's plaguing our communities. We're joined here today by the mayor of the Fresno, Jerry Dyer. Councilmember Nelson Esparza. Executive Director of the Central Labor Council, Dylan Savory. And candidate for Board of Supervisors, Jose Ramirez. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today is a part of a national event taking place throughout which carpenters, politicians, and organizations in 60 different locations across the nation who are going to stand up against construction industry tax fraud. This impacts our communities. We take an $8.4 billion loss a year in tax revenue. That's $44 billion since July. That is an astonishing number right there of tax fraud. Those funds were here to build schools, police stations, fire stations, clean drinking water plants, railroads, ports, and roads and bridges. Tax fraud on many factors is why we see homelessness in the streets, why we have a lack of affordable housing, and why this nation's infrastructure is in such disrepair. With today's gas prices, that is huge and critical. Our communities need this tax base to help fix our future generations. Honest citizens and contractors are left on the hook, not only to pay their fair share, but also to make up the difference for those ones who cheat. We're talking about today is a crime. Tax fraud is a crime. Tax fraud, wage theft, insurance fraud, misclassification of workers, cash pay, human trafficking, labor brokers, and the coyote system are alive and well. And it affects millions of working people in our country today. From the hardworking men and women who have built this country to the fair contractors who pay their taxes. When they don't pay their taxes, those of us who play by the rules have to foot the bill for them. No more free rides, you guys. No more free rides. The members and staff of the Northern California Carpenters Union have walked many construction sites, or crime scenes is the way you like to call them. We have spoken to non-represented workers, and we have found that these criminal activities are taking place across the state. And many of them are happening right here in our own backyard. Cash pay and wage theft is everywhere. It is a problem plaguing the community. So today we're taking steps to solve this problem. To stop cheaters from pocketing money and to go to the people and the resources it's meant to help. We need to say, stop tax fraud now. Let's hear it. Stop tax fraud, stop tax fraud, stop tax fraud, stop tax fraud. Stop tax fraud. Thank you guys, thank you. So I want to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is the mayor of City of Fresno. Real quick, Mayor Dyer has served 40 years in public service and safety. 40 years, that's almost as long as I've been alive. That's awesome. His last 18 was as chief of police, and now we're honored to call him our mayor. Yeah. As a native of the Central Valley, Mayor Dyer has firsthand seen the needs of the valley and the impacts of fraud and lack of funding to critical infrastructure projects, and how it's had an effect on the streets of Fresno. We're proud to stand side by side with him today to bring awareness to construction industry tax fraud. Brothers and sisters, please welcome an ally to the fight against tax fraud, Mayor Dyer.
Thank you. It is my honor to be standing here next to all of you today, and to be able to bring forth what I believe to be something that is extremely prevalent. In fact, far too prevalent within our community, and that is tax fraud. And it is not only prevalent in the city of Fresno and the county, but also statewide, and that pertains to workers' comp fraud, misclassifying workers as independent contractors, in order to avoid payroll taxes. All of those things make it an unfair labor market. And as a result, we have people who are skilled, hardworking people who are trying to put food on the table for their families, who are not able to do so because other people are not playing by the same set of rules. A minimum of 1 in 5 contractors, it's estimated, are committing tax fraud today. And as you heard, $8.4 billion in tax revenue lost nationwide. And that's money that could go to other resources that we need within our communities. But let me take it on a personal note. My son was a fencing contractor, and he started a business, and I helped him start that business. And I told him, when you get into business, what's important is you play by the rules. That when you hire an employee, you give them workers' comp, you pay their payroll taxes, and you do everything by the book so that you're not going to be out there doing the things that many other contractors do today. And he did that for a number of years, and it was very, very difficult and very, very challenging. Unfortunately, not everyone out there in that business was doing the same thing. In fact, they were undercutting the market. They were hiring people for cash. They were not paying workers' comp. They were not doing the things that he was doing, which ultimately allowed those competing interests to be able to bid jobs much lower than he was bidding jobs, and before long, he was no longer in the business. And that is exactly what ends up happening. We have a lot of small business owners within our community, a lot of small contractors that cannot compete because, quite frankly, it is an unfair playing field. And so what we want to do is to make sure that we call upon our law enforcement partners. Coming from 40 years in law enforcement, I understand the importance of rules and laws, but it is important that these laws be enforced. We want those people, those contractors, those people that are out there that are not paying payroll taxes, that are not providing workers' comp to their employees, to make sure that they know that we're watching them. And they need to be looking over their shoulder and making sure that they are complying with the labor code under 2775. That is extremely important. And to be able to pay people as independent contractors, as many of them claim, is simply tax evasion. They are avoiding their responsibility to pay taxes. And so whether workers are misclassified works do not have protections, like workers' comp if they are hurt on the job, do not have unemployment insurance, all of those things are critical. And the Economic Roundtable reports that 19% of construction workers are misclassified in California. 19%. And so union construction projects support apprenticeship, living wages, health insurance, and other benefits like pension and vacation while paying their taxes, unfortunately, are competing in an unfair market. And so I stand here today with the carpenters, and I stand here with all of you as you go out and do the right thing for the right reason, and you do the things that are going to allow our economy to move forward. So appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. God bless you guys.
Once again, you guys give it up for the mayor. Nice and loud. And like the mayor said, it is an unfair advantage. A 30% advantage is what is estimated. Nobody in this world would start a race when they know their component has a 30% advantage. And that hurts the small communities, that hurts the small workers and the companies. And all those companies that play on a level fair playing field. So my next speaker, right before I introduce him, I'll give you a little quick bio on him, is Councilman Nelson Esparza, a longtime friend of the Carpenters Union. Councilman Esparza is an educator. Go ahead, give it up to him right now. Councilman Esparza is an educator in the community who is dedicated in ensuring Fresno continues to have an educated worker force for decades to come. Nelson has always been a voice for the middle class and working class neighborhoods. He truly believes there are the foundation of what makes Fresno area great. As an educator, he sees the need for tax funds to help the education system for future generations for the brothers and sisters. Let's please welcome a real loud welcome from Councilman Esparza.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Council President Nelson Esparza. It's my pleasure and honor this morning to stand as a union member in my own right with my brothers and sisters here in the Carpenters Union. Every year, religiously, you folks take a stand and bring attention to this very, very critical issue. As we've heard some of the big numbers. We've heard how it impacts our communities at large. What I want to do is get a little bit into kind of the human impact of what this kind of crime means in our communities. At my job as a professor, I see the impacts of the funding needed in our higher education system and our education system at large. Here at City Hall, we're faced with critical decisions every single day about how to spend the very limited dollars that we have in terms of our taxes. And it's been said over and over that the city of Fresno does not have a spending problem, we have a revenue problem. And when you take a look at one of the causes, one of the variables in that, taking a look at what we believe to be this tax fraud, that has an impact on the everyday lives of people living in our communities. And we're trying to figure out whether we can patch these cracks in the road or help folks stay in their homes, or better the parks for the youngsters and the next generation, fund our public safety, all these different critical issues. Tax fraud does not help our case, not in any case. And we have our workers here who are standing to both sides of me and behind me, who are busting their tails every single day. And ultimately, when this kind of crime is committed by some of these bad actors, it's really the folks to my left and to my right that end up paying that price. They end up paying a disproportionate amount of their taxes on their 1099s, and it's not right. It's unjust. It is a form of taking advantage of folks here in our community. So I'm here today, again, proud to stand with all of you folks, stand up against that, stand with you, because it's not just the big numbers, it has an impact on actual people. The people's you, people's me, people's our kids. And again, we call upon the appropriate enforcement agencies to have zero tolerance with respect to those bad actors who are engaging in tax fraud. So again, I want to thank my friends, the Carpenters, for having me out here with you this morning. Count on me to stand with you now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Nelson. So our next guest speaker is no stranger to the fight. It is a strong ally to the Carpenters Union. I'm really proud that he's here today. We know we can count on him for future generations, future decades to fight this man. To my right is Mr. Dylan Savory. He is the executive director, and he has dedicated his entire life to the betterment and struggles of the working class community. He tirelessly continues to fight against the injustice that working families face every single day. Dylan has been on the forefront of many labor fights, economic justice, fair wages, opportunities, equality for all Central Valley residents. I'm really proud today to have Dylan Savory here today to speak on behalf of tax fraud. Brothers and sisters, give him a warm welcome. Dylan Savory.
Hey, sisters and brothers, it's my honor always to stand with you, to stand with any of the 50 labor unions that the Central Labor Council represents. We have 105,000 workers that we represent in Fresno, Madera, Tulare, and Kings County. And while there's some powerful unions, I know that the Carpenters are amongst the very top. You guys are badass, and I really love the Carpenters. A lot of people have this misconception that labor unions are only about their members, that are only about the affiliated unions that are a part of the movement. But the truth is, we care about all workers everywhere, regardless of status. We want everybody to have a union, is that right? Yeah. We're about economic justice, and economic justice is lacking for those without representation. So you see the sisters and brothers to my sides are a skilled and trained workforce who are the very best at their craft. They represent the best contractors. They build things one time. Those buildings, the end users, they last for generations. The buildings don't fall apart. We have the absolute best safety standards, and that's why the unions are the best messengers when it comes to tax fraud. At the end of the day, we have too many workers out there that are not in a union. There's only about 15% of workers in California have the protections that organized labor can offer. And that means there are hundreds of thousands of workers that are being taken advantage of every single day. Millions, in fact, billions of dollars are being stolen from workers' pockets, are being stolen from municipalities, both federal, state, and local. And the irony is the enforcement agencies that we need to come after bad contractors that not only build terrible buildings and steal workers' wages, those enforcement agencies can't afford to hire more people because the tax dollars are not going into the appropriate locations to buffer the labor commissioner's office. So it's a race to the bottom when we have small businesses that, while we support them, they are not doing the proper things. They are not putting into workers' comp. They are not putting into retirement funds. They are having safety violations that cost millions of dollars in lawsuits. All of that money is money that they could be investing in upfront for workers, getting them into a union, paying into their retirement, paying into their benefits, making sure that they have the same benefits that we have up here. And we want that for all workers, right? Yeah. We want all contractors to follow by the rules. We don't want to force people into submission. We don't need more union power. We have enough power with us right now, but we are sticking up for the folks that do not have a voice. And in order to stick up for those workers, we have to call out the contractors who oftentimes market themselves as small business owners who just need a leg up. That's not true. We, as the union leaders, we go to small business owners and we offer them the tools and the help and the guidance to get into the labor movement, to follow prevailing wage laws, to build things properly. Nobody wants to see a building fall apart after 3 or 4 years. Nobody wants us to see, nobody wants us to use foreign products that are not up to standards like, Chinese steel. We want everything built American. We want it built by labor movement. We want buildings to last. So you have to hire the right people, but you have to have those people to be skilled and trained. We have to have them come through apprenticeship programs. We have to have folks that really, really care about their job. And I don't want to slight undocumented workers because we care about them. We're humanitarians at heart. And honestly, construction is several rungs up from working in the fields, but there's a proper way to get into an apprenticeship, to work for a good contractor, to not be in the shadows, to not be taken advantage of like so many workers are. So today we're calling out the bad contractors. We're sticking up for workers who don't have a voice. And then when this is all over, in the next 60 days, all of these folks are going to be out knocking on doors, asking voters to vote for the right people, so other folks like Nelson and like the mayor will stick up for us, and we can continue to highlight this issue, and we can continue to bring workers out of the shadows, and we can continue to bust down on the bad contractors. Thank you, brothers and sisters. I'm proud to stand with you.
Thank you, Dylan. Thank you so much. Our next guest speaker is a candidate for Fresno Board of Supervisors, Jose Ramirez. Jose has dedicated to public service for 20 years as the city manager. Central Valley raised, he has a deep understanding for the rural cities and our region as well. His skills and understanding of complex budgets have given him a first-hand knowledge of how a tax base is to fund public projects such as schools, emergency services, and roads. Everybody, let's welcome Jose Ramirez.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Buenos dias.
Good morning.
Let me just tell you, I echo what my colleagues have said over and over today. I'm about openness, transparency, and against all fraud. Let me repeat this, all fraud.
Yeah.
As a city manager, of course, and especially in the rural areas, funds are hard to come by. We don't have a complex, array of different funds that we can access. And so, in order for us to find the proper funds to do our parks, to fund our roads, like Nelson was mentioning, or just to, fund other parts of the complex budget that we have to deal with every day, it's hard to come by. So when we have people that are actually committing fraud, and that is actually happening, and I want to highlight, personally, I have actually helped several individuals that have come to me that have said, hey, you know what, they're evading payroll taxes, or they're trying to pay me in cash. Or guess what? they're not classifying me appropriately. We have to make sure that we create. I'm sure there's avenues out there where they can communicate this information without feeling afraid, because that's what's happening. Fear is what is causing a lot of these folks to stay in the shadows, to stay in the background, because they feel that they're not going to be able to continue to work or there'd be some type of reprisal. We can't allow that to happen. So we have to stamp this cancer, because it is a cancer. It spreads out. If some group of individuals get away with it, then other folks that are bad actors are going to jump on that and want to do it the same. We cannot allow that to happen. Thank you. In the rural areas, especially, because a lot of these individuals don't have all the tools at their disposal or don't have a lot of trusted folks that they can go to, we need to do more outreach. We need to educate more folks and let them know before they get into that uncompromised position, because they don't know. Sometimes they walk into these situations thinking that, oh, they know the rules, so I guess this is okay. But then after the fact, like Mr. Prado or Mrs. Jimenez that I helped actually last year in the Merced area, and they're like, well, he said he was going to pay me, but now he wants to pay me in cash. And so we can't allow those things to happen. So let's say no to tax fraud, all type of fraud. Let's be open, let's be transparent. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm with the Carpenters, and thank you.
Once again, I want to say thank you to all our guest speakers. Everybody give them a loud thank you. Everybody. And like we said before, we're very, very, very transparent that this is not a union or a non-union problem. This is not a Democrat or a Republican problem. This is a community problem. This is something we all face, whether you know it or not. And like we always say here in the Carpenters Union, the non-union worker, man or woman, is not our enemy. That is a potential brother system we just haven't organized yet against a system that they don't even realize that exists out there every single day, trying to take wages from them, trying to make them cut what they're paying for. I mean, all the time they face hurdles that they don't even know. So when I say that, I'm going to ask this to you guys in the Carpenters Union right now. Do we want better roads? Yeah! Do we want safer public entities? Yeah! Absolutely. Do we want more affordable housing? Yeah! Do we want a flourishing education system? Yeah! Absolutely. Do we want tax fraud? No! Absolutely not. So, if you guys want safer streets, better roads, more affordable housing, flourishing education system, so our kids can prosper, and that's what this is truly about. The future generations. They cannot inherit a mess. It is our responsibility to make sure we take a stand today that tax fraud doesn't continue. So we want everybody to remind you to call all your local and state representatives. Ask them to stand up against tax fraud. Ask them to continue to support solutions that work, like SB 27, that hold general contractors and prime contractors responsible for the penalties and wages that are stolen from these workers on their sites. Ask them to protect the communities and tax-paying contractors that pay their families by promoting prevailing wage so workers can live and afford in the communities that they work. Promote apprenticeship standards through state-certified joint management cooperations. Promote health care for construction workers. And provide oversight and compliance on all of these construction projects. Ask them to strengthen the employment of our law enforcement so that the public safety can prosecute all these crimes as felonies. Ask them to help recover billions of lost tax revenue. I'm asking you guys to stay informed, spread the word, talk to your colleagues, friends, and family, and everyone let them know the effects the construction industry has on the communities. We stated earlier by saying stop tax fraud now. Let the Central Valley hear us. Let the state hear us all the way up to the Capitol. And let them know that we stand side by side with our brothers across the nation to say stop tax fraud now. Thank you everybody for coming out, and let me hear you. Stop tax fraud now. Stop tax fraud now. Stop tax fraud now. Thank you guys. Thank you for everybody who joined us. And have a great day.
All right, man.
Dylan.